Well, thank you, Randy, and good morning, everybody. Yeah, great intro. This is a part of a talk, a shorter version, if you will, of what we originally produced back. We started in 2016 and finished in 17 on a sub-team to help with the implementation of the IDSS Professional Development Series. That was basically PCUs 1 through 7. And this is targeted more for, as I'll show you here, through 4 through 7 and help with the development thereof. In hindsight, at timing, this would have been better probably a year ago, but who knew we'd be locked down for so long? Because a lot of what I'm going to show you here can be done virtually. And really, the idea here again is, so before we open back up and we're out with our partners at EOCs and doing tabletop stuff like that, this could be some really good in-house stuff that you can do now, kind of dust off the cobwebs and or help improve your briefing skills. So that's really what we're targeting here for today. And I do apologize, you know, the old saying, death by PowerPoint. This is really a text-heavy presentation just by its very nature, but I promise you I won't read every line word for word. But some of the key topics today, we're going to talk about, review the training that's available up on VLab. It's off the shelf. The way we designed it, it's kind of, you can pick a topic, and I'll show you this here, and run with it, or give you some ideas on how you can modify and run with it and suit it to your office and training needs. So we'll get more into that. I'll go over the simulation documents. I'll do a pseudo virtual lab walkthrough and with an exercise example. And throughout here, I talk about the role of a facilitator and or an evaluator, and that's threaded within. So again, this is really, the idea here is to help with your development for those that are taking the advanced PCUs 4 through 7 to help with your deployment training. So that's what we're targeting here. And to help sign off a lot of the competencies, if you will, that are listed in the deployment task book, so you can get that requirement satisfied as well. So what are we talking about? We created 6 different types of simulations, and we had to create it for everybody coast to coast, if you will. In the CONUS, in OCONUS, for that matter, we were charged with. So we got a little bit here for everybody, from severe to tropical to hazmat and everything in between on these scenarios. So you can pick one or come up with your own, something totally different. They're designed to be pretty basic. You could do a whole office kind of concept. You could do multiple offices, work together with another office, or one-on-one, however you see fit and whatever works best for you. There's no really hard rule here. So yeah, and basically it's to help get you through the PCUs 4 through 7, as I said. So what are we talking about? There's 2 sides of these to each simulation. There's a facilitator side, and then there's the student side. And I'll talk about the facilitator first, and all the supporting documents that you can read there. I won't read them all to you. I'll touch upon them here, and then the student side. So let me dive into this here. So this is an overly busy slide, and I apologize. There's a bunch of them like this. But the first thing you're going to want to do as a facilitator when you open this up in VLab is you're going to want to look at the README document, and it's designed just as it says, and it kind of walks you through here's what's in this, and here's what you can expect, and it gives you some pointers and guides you and gives you some suggestions on how to go forward with simulations. There's a list of competencies for each simulation. They're really the same for the most part for each simulation, the same competencies. And the idea there is, as the student moves forward, you're actually satisfying some of the requirements in the task book. So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, really, the way this is set up. So here's a checklist. Some of this seems, at the time, it was just kind of fresh and new. Some of this may seem redundant. We even have a checklist for what you need to do before you head out, and then when you're at, say, the EOC or incident command post, or whatever the situation may be. So we even provide a checklist that you may want to use, may not use, may use your own or enhance it. But the idea here is so you got that mindset of like ready, set, go. So everything's ready to run right out the door here. In the simulations, I just happen to pick the fire event here. The idea is we lead the facilitator through with, we provide examples of injects that you may want to use, or you come up with your own injects. And we also provide prompts, some of the things that we were trying to flush out that you may want the student to do or to perform a certain task, and how to do it and how to kind of nudge them along. So we do provide some suggestions there. And again, we have it in here, but this is a facilitator eyes only. This is, again, not for the student to see it, because it kind of gives some of the answers, if you will, of what we're trying to accomplish in the training. So again, another overly busy slide here, but we provide the evaluation guides. Here you can see the competencies, and there are 5 of them, and there's some bullet points, and we give you some pointers within this. But here's the stuff that we're looking for as you work through the simulation. And in the simulation slide deck, it's all PowerPoint, we list off which competencies a particular task satisfies. So we actually help point you to, this is for competency 4, so you don't have to fish through going, well, what am I doing here? So we try to really make it as simple as possible and as straightforward as possible for you, so as not to waste your time administering it. So we also provide at the end a debrief guide. So I can sit there and say, hey, work with the student. What worked well, what didn't work well? Or if it's a multi-office or a whole office, figure out, okay, what could we do better as an office to improve, and what worked well, and go for the next simulation that comes along. Now, the student guide, the other side of the coin, not as much in there per se, but out the door, again, they've got a few things that we tell them right off, need to know items, some things some key points that's, again, either but some of the things that we came up with that they may want to know about. There's also an overview video with each simulation. Mark Singer, I got to give him credit there. He did the lion's share of that, and so that's his voice on most of them. And but he walks you through. It's like, hey, here's what to expect, and have fun with it. Again, here the goal is really ultimately is to help with the task book, to get that box checked, if you will, if you pardon that expression, but because there's a lot in there, right? If you've looked at the task book, so this will help accomplish a lot of it from not even walking out the door of the office. So we actually, and I got to pause here, and finally we look at something of color. So hey, data. Each simulation comes with, at the time, wave data. We had canned wave data. I said we had. Last week when I went in there looking for it, long story short, but it dropped off. We're trying to repopulate wave. So for the dates for each case, the data is already there. That said, I kind of paused. I was like, uh-oh. And I thought about it. I'm like, this is not a showstopper. What you could do, this will take a little bit of work, is take a case. Let's say you were doing like today, severe weather for us. And maybe I'd grab the event that we're having today through Wave, because it's there. It has an archive going back a few years if you go to the GSD site now. But you could still use it in conjunction with, say, or COBRA's data for 88. Use COBRA's for the 88D data. So you could have fun between the two and use it a more recent case than something from 2007 or 17 for that matter, excuse me. So Wave is there, and it's really, I think for this kind of simulations, it's really super friendly and easy to do. And we actually have a how to use Wave, because I know not everybody's used or comfortable with it. So Bill Roush, the Sioux in Sacramento, this is his brainchild, and he walks you through. He does a nice little guided tour of how to use Wave and set it up, things like that. So I encourage you to look at that as your time allows. So here's a quick run through. So what are we looking at? Here's at the time what VLab looked at. It's a little bit cleaner now, the jump page, if you will. But you can see, I hope it translates well, but on the VLab border, it's all the different simulations. So if you click on that, it'll open up a tier down. There'll be two sides of it. There'll be the facilitator side and the student side. And before I forget, the permissions are currently set. So management from at the time in 2017, the management from all of the offices has access to the facilitator side. The students do not. That said, we are aware there's been turnover in the management ranks. So if you are new and you hit it and you can't get in, please email me and I'll get a hold of Bill and we'll add you. It may take a day or 3, depending on Bill's schedule, but it'd be easier that way than repopulating the whole database. That took a lot of work. So if you knock on the door and a facilitator and it won't let you in, just send me an email and we'll take care of that as timely as we can. So that's just a little caveat on that, on the things have changed with time. Again, in here, we've got everything listed, ready to go, a bunch of hyperlinks. I checked out, 99% of them worked, so we're good there. Again, on the student side, it says, hey, here's everything you need. The 3 things, there's a simulation, a PowerPoint guide, there's wave data, here's how to use it, all that's right there. Again, here's for the evaluator, here's the list of competencies, so that's there waiting for you to fill out, and debrief guidelines are there for you and the facilitator to perform, and to evaluate the student's success or the office success. And don't forget, be sure to, in the deployment book, to sign off that the student did those certain tasks, so to follow the playbook there. So that's available to you. So hopefully that knocks off quite a bit. Often I get asked the difference between a facilitator and an evaluator. Who does what? Really, it's up to the office. There's no really hard written rule. The facilitator, if it's one-on-one, you could also be the evaluator if you want. But if it was just you and say you and me, have a third person staring at us, so I could probably do both. But it's up to you what works best. I would say a larger group of people that you're trying to get through the simulation, it would be wise to have an evaluator, maybe 2 if you can afford the extra body in there to help with that. But it's really up to you. But really, the facilitator, your key goal really is to ensure there's sufficient time and you have all the resources in place to make the training and learning as efficient and as smooth as possible. And again, where the evaluator, you pretty much observe the trainee and provide feedback. And also you could provide feedback to the facilitator going, next time maybe we should do X instead of Y, things like that, and how to improve your office training. So just a note there. And again, the evaluation record, if you haven't looked at the task book, this is near the back of it. And there's a bunch of evaluation records. You can make duplicates in there and to sign off. And in the task book, in the very front of it, lists how to fill out the documentation properly. So all that's in there as well. And so what are your next steps? I would encourage you to poke around in VLab and see what's in there. Maybe give you guys ideas on how to come up with your own training. Don't use ours. If you want to take the time, make your own, make it better. And if you do make it better, certainly please share it. I think we'd all benefit from that. Obviously, we want to look for deployment opportunities as the first line, if you will, to train people, but we just don't have that opportunity. That's coming. But between now and then, this may be a nice bridge to help you there. A suggestion, once we can have people in the office outside, maybe have your EMs come in to help with this. If it's an inside tabletop, I think that goes a long way to have where I'm actually briefing an emergency manager versus say a coworker. I mean, it's a different pressure, if you will, right? So I think that's invaluable training, just like we do at boot camp. We have actual EMs in there that you end up briefing, not just weather service people. So just see if you can do that once we're allowed to. And again, here's a design multi-office versus a whole office to smaller groups or one-on-one simulations. Modify them as you want and have fun with it, really. And here are the links. The first one's VLab, where to go, because I know VLab can be a challenge sometimes trying to find your way around it. And then I also provided the Google site, the OCLO has come up with, and on that, there's a ton of information on the whole professional development series on PCUs 1 through 3 and then 4 through 7, frequently asked questions sections in there. Some of it, I'll be honest, is a little dated. Some of the rules have changed on policy and things like that, which I'm not going to go into today on this talk. It's beyond the scope of this talk. But so if you have any questions, get with your manager and go from there. But that's a really good resource to help guide you moving forward with the PCU training. So with that, I'll pause and see if there are any questions.